Lately, we've been digging into some really interesting old documents and stuff. And, well, for today's deep dive, we're going way back to the early 1900s to check out self-defense back in.
Mhm.
I've got a whole bunch of sources for you, and they're all about how Americans saw jujitsu in those days. The main one we'll be looking at is this book called The Secrets of Jujitsu, a complete course in self-defense, published way back in 1920 by a Captain Alan Corstorphine Smith.
1920, huh? Wow.
Yeah. And get this, he actually earned a black belt in Japan in 1916. And then, get this, he was an instructor at the infantry school right here in the U.S.
So this is legit then. Like this guy knew his stuff, especially for that time period. I mean, jujitsu wasn't exactly mainstream back then in the US, was it?
Right. And that's what makes this so interesting. I mean, we're talking about a time just after World War I
Oh, yeah, that's right.
when, people were really interested in practical combat skills,
Yeah,
especially, well, the military, of course.
for sure. You'd need all the edge you could get back then. Makes you wonder if this Captain Smith guy saw some action himself?
Maybe, yeah. It's interesting, though, because the foreword of the book was written by Colonel Paul B. Malone,
Okay.
the assistant commandant of the infantry school. And he actually endorses jujitsu training for the American infantry.
Wow. That's a pretty big deal coming from someone like that.
Definitely. And it really shows how seriously they were taking this stuff back then. And it's not just about, fighting techniques. What really jumped out at me in these sources was the emphasis on mental training and using your body efficiently, like
Yeah.
really efficiently. But there's this one idea that kept popping up. Captain Smith calls it the Stahara. He believed it was like the core, the secret of
A
jujitsu.
Stahara. Okay, I'm intrigued. What is this Stahara thing? Is it some kind of secret move
Hmm?
or like a pressure point?
Not exactly. It's more about understanding how to use your body's natural power. And that's what we're diving into today. We're going to try to figure out what exactly Captain Smith meant by Stahara, how he thought you could train it, and why he thought it was so important, not just for self-defense, but for your mental game, too.
Sounds pretty interesting. I mean, this is way before all the modern martial arts stuff we have now, right?
Totally. So the book starts by saying that jujitsu is about way more than just fighting. Captain Smith says it gives you this ability for what he calls self-care in dangerous situations, whether you've got a weapon or not.
Self-care. That's an interesting way to put it.
Right. Like it's about protecting yourself,
Yeah.
not necessarily about being aggressive. And he says it teaches you how to dodge your opponent's strength and hit them where they're weakest. Like he says they're probably only using like 20% of their potential strength against you. While you, if you know what you're doing, can use your full 100%.
So it's about like strategy, using your strengths against their weaknesses, not just brute force.
Exactly. It's like a chess game almost.
Yeah.
He also talks about how jiu-jitsu helps you develop your balance, both your own balance and being able to throw your opponent off balance. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
He says this kind of thinking, this strategic approach, it's not just for physical fights. Yeah, he says if you're trained in jiu-jitsu, you'll naturally use it in, mental challenges too. You'll be more composed and resourceful in all sorts of situations.
I can see that. Like thinking on your feet, staying calm under pressure. It's all connected.
Right. And he makes a point of saying that this isn't just for strong people.
Oh, interesting. What does he say about that?
Well, he says that strong folks learn to use their strength more effectively, and those who might not be as physically strong, well, they can learn to overcome that disadvantage by using these principles.
Makes sense.
He even mentions specifically how women can use these techniques to defend themselves and stay calm in emergencies.
That's pretty forward thinking for 1920, isn't it?
Definitely. So the course itself is broken down into 7 books. The first one is all about introducing the Stahara. Like that's the whole point of book 1. He even calls it an introductory course showing that the secret of jujitsu is in the Stahara, how to use the Stahara, how to train the Stahara. And there are 22 pictures to help explain it all. Then the other books go into different situations, like defending against waist grabs, throat attacks, wrist grabs, attacks from behind. Then there's stuff about defending against weapons, how to apprehend someone, and even some secret Japanese grips, which sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, that does sound kind of cool. But it sounds like this book 1 with the Stahara is like the foundation for everything else.
Exactly. Captain Smith's very clear about that. He says right from the start that the Sahara is the key. And this first book is all about understanding it, using it, and training it. He even says that these first lessons aren't really about fighting moves, but more about getting your whole body ready, getting your balance right, and practicing holds safely.
Kind of like laying the groundwork before you start building, right?
Exactly. So what is this Stahara? According to lesson 1, it's the abdominal region.
So like your stomach muscles.
Well, it's more than just that. He says it includes your diaphragm, all your abdominal muscles, your solar plexus, and get this, your center of gravity.
Oh, wow. So it's like the core of your being, literally.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he says the goal of this course is to teach you to use the Stahara instinctively without even thinking about it. He claims that if you use it right, you'll have more physical power, better mental control, and even a stronger personality.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just physical strength here, right? This sounds more holistic almost.
Absolutely. He even says, and I quote, "The weakest man's Stahara is stronger than the strongest man's arm."
Wow, that's a bold statement.
Right. And his main strategy is to play the strength of your Stahara against the strength of your opponent's arm.
I see. So it's about leverage.
Yes, exactly. And he compares it to Napoleon's military strategy, always attacking the enemy's weakest point with all your force.
Interesting analogy. Makes sense, though.
He does admit that in some jujitsu techniques, you can see how the Stahara is used, like when you're lifting or throwing someone. But he says it's there in every technique, even if it's not as obvious. He says that once you learn to use it in those obvious ways, you'll start to see how to use it in more subtle ways, too.
Makes sense. You got to crawl before you can walk, right?
Right. Now, the story of how he came up with the word Stahara is kind of funny.
Okay, let's hear it.
So when he was teaching jujitsu in Yokohama, Japan, his Japanese students would call the lower abdomen shitahara. Shita means under or lower, and hara means abdomen.
Like in harakiri.
Exactly. But as he developed his ideas about balance and power coming from the abdomen, he started using shitahara as a technical term because there wasn't really an English word for it. Later on, when he was teaching American soldiers, they naturally started saying it like Stahara.
Americanized it.
Exactly. And that's the term he stuck with. He even says it became an American term for this Americanized understanding of the concept.
Huh. That's fascinating. A little bit of cultural exchange happening right there in the martial arts world.
And here's another thing he says. Apparently, Japanese jujitsu teachers at that time didn't really teach the Stahara or the principle of balance as directly.
Really?
Yeah. He says that maybe that's why traditional Japanese jujitsu took so long to learn. By putting the Stahara front and center, his course was supposed to be a faster, more direct way to master these basics.
Makes sense. A more, I guess you could say, Western approach.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
He really stresses how important the Stahara is. He calls it the body's center of gravity, the seat of emotions, and basically the most important part of your body that everyone ignores.
Like this hidden power source we all have but don't know how to use.
Exactly. So how do you train this Stahara thing? Well, lesson 1 uses an example called the upward wrist escape. Imagine someone's grabbing both your wrists. Instead of trying to pull away with just your arm muscles, which someone stronger could easily resist, you step forward, lower your body a little, and use your abdominal strength and your whole body weight to push your wrists up and out of their grip. He even says that at first, the person holding your wrist should just stay put so you can really focus on using the right body mechanics with the Stahara. So even a simple wrist escape isn't just about arm strength, it's about using your whole body through your core.
Smart. You're using bigger, stronger muscles instead of just relying on your wrists and arms.
Exactly. Then lesson 2 is about how to take control of someone without hurting them. He's very clear that these first 7 lessons aren't about fighting, but about using your whole body together, staying balanced, and practicing hold safely.
Safety first.
Right. And he talks about the breaking point. That's the position where your opponent is basically stuck. And he says there's a major operation to get them to that point without hurting them, and then a minor operation where you slowly apply pressure until they give up, usually by clapping their hands, tapping, or saying mita.
Interesting. So it's controlled, like a training exercise.
It's all about control and precision. Then lesson 3 introduces this move called the little finger come along.
Little finger come along. Sounds kind of ominous.
Well, it's basically about controlling someone by manipulating their 4th and 5th fingers.
Hmm.
You use your Stahara to keep them off balance and keep control.
Oh, I see. Using leverage and your core strength again.
Yep. And then lesson 4 is called knowledge conquers strength. It's all about that idea of using 20% of your opponent's strength against your 100%. Like he used the example of a wrist twist.
Okay.
He says if you completely relax your arm muscles and someone tries to twist your wrist, if they have a strong core, they'll probably fail. But if you engage your whole body and use your Stahara, you can easily overpower them.
Wow. So technique really can beat brute strength.
That's the point he keeps making. Lesson 5 is all about Stahara control. He uses two diagrams to show the difference between a high center of gravity and a low center of gravity. He says a low center, which you get through Stahara control, makes you more stable, balanced, and able to move more quickly and with more control. And he has this exercise where you push your abdomen out and then pull it back in using your stomach muscles. He even connects this to the fast, precise movements you see in shadowboxing.
So this is like core training, right? We see this in lots of modern disciplines too.
Absolutely. Then lesson 6 is about the waist hold. It's basically a basic exercise for getting comfortable with physical contact and learning to stay balanced without just using your arm strength. He emphasizes using your Stahara to stay upright. He even says that most people tense up their chest and upper body when they're trying to be strong, which actually throws them off balance.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Makes sense that you'd want to stay relaxed and use your core instead.
Right, so lesson 7 introduces some specific exercises to improve balance and Stahara control. There's the first Stahara calisthenic and the second Stahara calisthenic chest on knee, both about shifting your weight and staying balanced while using your abdominal muscles. He even quotes Benny Leonard, the lightweight champion boxer, who said Stahara training helped him punch harder.
That's quite an endorsement.
Right. And then there's this abdominal control exercise. It involves deep breathing and tensing and relaxing your abdominal muscles.
So kind of like those deep breathing exercises you see in yoga and meditation.
Yeah, kind of. He says it's good for circulation, strengthens your organs, and even makes you hungry. He recommends doing it all the time in different positions and even using a mirror to check your form. And finally, he connects the Stahara to the idea of guts, like what the bayonet instructors were talking about in World War I. He says guts means more than just physical strength. It's also about mental toughness. And he says training the Stahara helps you develop that inner strength, that willingness to fight.
Interesting. So Stahara is about more than just the physical.
Exactly. It's about your whole being. Now, it doesn't end there. He says the rest of the lessons build on this Stahara principle in all sorts of self-defense situations. He mentions techniques for escaping wrist grabs, elbow strikes, throws, defending against knives and chokehold, hammerlocks, and even how to arrest someone.
So it's a whole system built on this one core concept.
Exactly. And throughout the rest of the book, he keeps coming back to the same ideas. Breaking your opponent's balance, using their momentum against them, and staying balanced yourself using your Stahara. He emphasizes practicing safely with a partner, knowing how to control each technique so you don't hurt anyone, and using clear signals to stop during practice. He even mentions this super secret technique called the secret Japanese death lock, which sounds pretty intense.
That's a name that definitely grabs your attention.
Right. He also talks about balance and the line of support. That's the area between your feet. He says if you move so you're at a right angle to your opponent's stance, you can throw them off balance more easily.
Makes sense. It's all about leverage and disrupting their base.
Exactly. And he also talks about, ethics and self-defense.
Oh, okay. That's important.
Yeah, he makes a distinction between what he calls honorable techniques and attacks to vulnerable spots, like the groin or the eyes. He says you should only use those in a life or death situation against a really dangerous attacker.
Makes sense. Using the minimum force necessary.
Right. He also briefly mentions the mental side of training. He says you need to practice a lot to develop those reflexes and stay calm in dangerous situations.
Yeah, that's key in any martial art. Training your mind as well as your body.
Absolutely. So he finishes by saying that the goal of this whole course is to teach you how to defend yourself against real threats, including people with weapons, but also how to control someone without hurting them too badly. And he's clear that even though he talks about jujitsu matches, most of what he's teaching is for real-life self-defense, not for competition.
It's a practical system designed for real-world situations.
Exactly. So the main takeaway from Captain Smith's Secrets of Jujitsu is definitely this Stahara concept. It's about physical power, balance, and even mental focus. It's not just about muscles. It's about using your whole body as one unit.
What's fascinating about all this is how it combines technique with this whole philosophy of how to use your body, this Stahara thing, and how it's supposed to help you in physical and mental situations. It's a really unique way to think about self-defense.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder, how does this early 1900s approach to body mechanics and core strength relate to what we do today for fitness and martial arts? Does this idea of a power source in your body make sense to you? I mean, think about yoga, Pilates, all those things that focus on your core.
It's a great point. We see this focus on core strength and stability everywhere now.
Right. So if you found this whole Stahara thing interesting, I definitely recommend checking out the original book or learning more about Jiu-Jitsu. And if you have any thoughts or connections to other stuff, please share them. It's always cool to see how these ideas pop up in different places and times.
I agree. It really shows how these concepts can transcend specific disciplines and eras. It's about understanding the human body and how to use it effectively, both physically and mentally.